Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today a devblog was released containing some changes that we foresaw, some that we were expecting, and then a lot of, what the heck, they're actually buffing this line? Level of changes. This one's a real doozy, fellas, so make sure you stick around for it. Speaking of the devblog, link to it will be in the description down below, so you can read along as I read aloud. If there are any images, graphs, whatever in this devblog, I will throw them up on screen as we get to them. But without any further delay, let's go ahead and get into it. Devblog is titled Public Test 14.3 Balance Changes. Captains, we're applying balance changes to a large number of ships based on an analysis of both their combat statistics and player feedback. This time, we're focusing on high-tier American light cruisers, Soviet tech tree destroyers, and Pan-American battleships, among others. No rewards for guessing what the Pan-American battleships are getting. Alright, first off, most unexpected American tech tree cruisers. The light cruiser line, to be exact. Again, something that I wasn't really expecting to see anytime soon from Wargaming. So they say, we have decided to look back at one of the oldest tech tree branches in our game, aiming to increase the level of comfort when helming these cruisers, which boast some of the highest risk/reward playstyles of this class, while being mindful to not disturb the quite acceptable combat effectiveness of these ships. We have decided to expand the turning angles of some of their turrets, enabling them to bring guns to bear more easily when taking evasive action or facing an opponent suddenly approaching from an unexpected angle. So the Helena, the first and second main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow, can now turn 360 degrees. Widened angles of the first, second, and third main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow. The Cleveland, listen to this, guys. All main battery gun turrets can now turn 360 degrees. All of them. Widened angles of all main battery gun turrets. Cleveland can just do a complete owl in 360 no-scope now. Beautiful. Seattle, one of the worst tier 9s in the game. The first, third, and fourth main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow, can now turn 360 degrees. Widened angles of the third and fourth main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow. The Worcester, the first, second, fifth, and sixth main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow, can now turn 360 degrees. Jacksonville, the first and second main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow, can now turn 360 degrees. Please note that the fourth and fifth main battery gun turrets, counting from the bow, already have that capability. Main battery range reduced 17.2 to 16.9 kilometers. Just a little smack of a nerf there to the Jacksonville, which, in all fairness, it really did need. So, some unexpected buffs to the American light cruisers. And for what it's worth, I do believe these cruisers could do that in real life. For some reason, Wargaming didn't give them that ability when they added them in game. But if knowledge serves me correct, again, those turrets could 360 in real life. So, hey, American light cruiser enjoyers, you just got a free buff. Unless you play the Jacksonville, then you got a nerf along with it. But that's great. Always love seeing older tech lines get some love from Wargaming to help bring them, more, not bring them, but make them more competitive in the modern game. Alright, next line receiving changes is the Soviet tech tree destroyers. They say, another entry in our set of changes to existing branches. Soviet destroyers have evolved a lot since their initial release, including the addition of the sub-branch culminating in the Grozovoy and the replacement of the Tier 10 ship of the original branch with Delta. Why can't they say Khabarovsk? Is it just, the destroyer that shall not be named? I don't know. That's funny. With the following changes, we aim to address some issues compiled over the years, make the playstyle of these ships more flexible, and increase the viability of alternative builds. Firstly, we improve the comfort and usability of the main armament and torpedoes of the ships, falling for smoother overall gameplay, and especially the transition to the Grozovoy sub-branch if that is the path that appeals to the player more. Furthermore, we have introduced changes to the consumable set of the main branch. Here, the improvement to smoke generators aimed at supporting the skirmish/positional style gameplay incentivized by this consumable. Starting with the Kiev and up the branch, the destroyers get further improved versions of Smoke Generator, allowing for more competitive alternative build options to the highly sought-after Repair Party that is available in the same slot. Speaking of Repair Party, we have also extended its availability to the lower ships of the branch, allowing players the ability to experiment with and try out both and select their preferred playstyle, or perhaps opt for going after the Grozavoy sub-branch to have both consumables. Last but not least, as part of these changes, we wish to address some inconsistencies within the progression across the branches themselves. The main culprit being Ognavoy. Based on player feedback and our own evaluation, we have determined that the gameplay of Ognavoy is too close to that of a torpedo-focused ship, which makes for an awkward transition from the obviously artillery-oriented preceding ships and Udeloy/Grozavoy, which boast a well-balanced toolkit of formidable guns and torpedoes. So let's see what they're doing to these Soviet destroyers. Alright. Oh man, they're going all the way down to tier 2 with these changes. Alright, so the Storzavoy. The researchable torpedo parameters have changed. Range increased from 4 to 5 kilometers. Reload time increased from 33 to 38 seconds. Main battery turret reverse time reduced 18.6 to 12.9 seconds. Smoke generator consumable parameters have been changed. The consumable now has the following characteristics. It's active for 20 seconds, 85-second disperse time, 120-second reload time, number charges 3. Okay, let me just skim through this real quick. I think I see what they're doing. So longer range torpedoes, trade-off is a longer reload. That seems to be the thing. Yes. So up and down the branch, the torpedoes are getting longer range, and the gunboats, the gunboat line, is notorious for having, exceptionally short-range torpedoes. The Cabrals culminates in having, 6-kilometer torpedoes, right? But the Delny, I believe, has 10. So, yeah. So, for the lower tier ones, they're getting like a kilometer or 2 increase, and they're increasing the reload on some of them, decreasing the reload on some others. Looks like from tier 7 on up, you start to get an increase in the reload. For example, the Minsk, you get, a 4 to 7 kilometer buff to the range, but a nerf to the damage, but a reduction to the reload time, 101 to 93 seconds. Sorry, that's the stock torpedoes. The researchable torpedoes, yeah, same thing. You're getting a 3 kilometer increase in the range, a slight damage nerf, and then a reduction in the speed, and a reduction for the reload time, right? And then the main battery guns, 18.6 to 12-second turret traverse time. So yeah, they're making the guns more, easier with regards to work with regards to their 180 time. That is a real sticking point of the gunboat line. I've played that line quite a lot. But yeah, that's what's happening up and down the line pretty much. They're getting longer range torpedoes with 14,400 damage. Pretty quick reload time, it looks like, until you get to higher tier. That's 117 seconds for the reload time, like on the Tashkent. And then you get 55 knot speed on the Torps. Looks like that sticks with the rest of the line. And they are changing the smoke consumable to have the following parameters: 30-second action time, 100-second dispersion time, 120-second reload time, and then 4 charges base. And the Delny got that changed too, but the Delny did not get the torpedo change. Alright, so, it's a pretty interesting way to spice up, again, an older line in the game. The Soviet destroyers were one of the first lines that I went down when I was trying with destroyers back in the day, because I wanted to get the Cabros for it before it went to the premium side of things. So, yeah, okay. Next line to receive changes are the Japanese cruisers. So, in particular, Mayoko and all of the various, premium copies and such of the Mayoko, the Megami, and the Ibuki. They are increasing the forward firing angles by 15 degrees. These cruisers, if you want to hop in games, check them out right now. Their torpedo angles are atrocious. You have to show essentially flat broadside to get the torpedoes off. They say the changes to Mayoki, Mogami, and Ibuki are aimed at increasing the level of comfort when using tubes. Some of the changes that were introduced to Zao have now shown to be a welcome addition. Therefore, we have decided to extend a similar widening of torpedo angles to lower tier cruisers of the branch. Nevertheless, the goal of these changes is not to significantly increase the combat effectiveness of these ships, nor to invalidate the identity of the sister branch of Japanese light cruisers. Therefore, it is limited to a relatively small angle and applied to a select few ships. We will monitor the efficiency of the changes of the changed ships going forward. Apply further balance changes if necessary. I don't think that's going to be like a huge thing with the Japanese cruisers. I mean, having a couple more degrees. I mean, 15 degrees. It's a pretty welcome change, but I don't think it's going to radically, you're not going to suddenly start topping the leaderboards in the Ibuki now if you weren't beforehand, right? But, it does make them more comfortable to play. Again, one of the oldest tech lines in the branch. These three lines you just went through are literally some of the oldest lines of the branch. They are as old as the game, if not a little bit older because of the beta, right? So, much needed changes there to some old tech trees. Love to see that happen. Now let's check out what's happening to the newer ships. Up next, the Ipiranga, the Los Andes, and the Libertad. You're never going to guess what's happening to these ships. Alright, so, with the Ipiranga, they say, fixed an issue where researchable hull upper belt was thicker than that of the stock hull. And then, engine parameters changed. The ship will retain enhanced acceleration parameters, but will no longer be able to sustain high speed during turns. And then the Los Andes, the Tier 9. The 127 millimeter, the 5-inch secondary battery armament, reload time has been increased from 5 to 6.4 seconds. The 234 millimeter armaments, that is the Goliath guns, have been increased. The reload time has been increased from 11 to 14 seconds. Engine parameters change. The ship will retain enhanced acceleration parameters, but will no longer be able to sustain high speed during turns. And the Libertad, engine parameters change. The ship will retain enhanced acceleration parameters, but will no longer be able to sustain high speed during turns. So, this is, in my opinion, exactly what needed to be nerfed about these ships. The fact that these are dreadnoughts, right? These are dreadnoughts. These are dreadnought-style ships, right? But the fact that they can pull, darn near 30 knots in a turn is a little ridiculous, in my opinion. If you've never seen the Libertad turn, first off, it turns stupidly fast. Like, so fast, and plus, again, you're still going 28 knots as you're turning. The poor crew in the steering gears room must be pulling like probably 6 or 7 Gs due to the centrifugal force that they're pulling, in that stern, getting whipped around that hard, right? It's ridiculous. So, exactly what needed to be nerfed on these ships, in my opinion. The Los Andes nerf, look, Los Andes, like we were talking about when we were talking about Unbreakable Line, that ship is cracked. In a Tier 9 setting, it is definitely overpowered, so she definitely needed those nerfs right there. So I think this is a good starting point with the Libertad line. I wouldn't be surprised if you see more aspects about their maneuverability cranked down, like the enhanced acceleration. They'll probably like to keep that for now, but don't be surprised that gets, back down a little bit too. So good changes here with the Libertad line. You get to keep your secondary firepower intact for the most part, except with the Los Andes. I mean, it's not a huge nerf to the Los Andes, a 1.4 second nerf to the 127 millimeter guns and a 3 second nerf to the 10-inch guns. I'm sorry, to the 234 millimeter guns. Yeah, that's pretty reasonable in my opinion. Again, all these ships, especially the Libertad and Los Andes, they are vastly outperforming in their tier for their class. You can check the numbers for yourself. This was coming, right? So, no real surprise there. I hope you guys enjoyed the honeymoon while it lasts. And then the Almirante Cochrane, the Tier 6 cruiser, got a reload nerf from 7 to 7.4 seconds. Alright, and then some welcome British changes here to some premium ships. So the Orion 44, the Tier 6 premium cruiser, she has a main battery reload buff, nerf, where she caught a 0.3 second nerf. Her reload time is now 9.8 seconds instead of 9.5 seconds. And her detectability by sea has also been nerfed too, from 10.5 to 11.1 kilometers. The London, the Tier 6 premium British cruiser, has also caught a buff. Her range was increased from 13.4 to 14.5 kilometers, quite a sizable range buff there. And then her main battery reload time was reduced from 15 to 14 seconds. get an unexpected but welcome buff. London's in a pretty rough spot in my opinion, but that does most certainly help. Alright, and then probably one of the changes that I'm most excited for. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting a Vanguard buff. Finally! Vanguard, Vanguard is struggling right now. It wasn't in that great of a spot when she was released back in the day, but I was like, hey, what? It's a tier 8 battleship with, cruiser maneuverability. That was pretty nice, right? But now it's like there's so many large caliber battleships at high tier and it has to contend with submarines and all the other goofy stuff that's happened, at higher tier. She has been thugging it out for a while, and she needs what she's getting here, which is a specialized repair team's consumable with the following parameters. Her HP per second restoration is now 1075 HP. The action time is 14 seconds now, and you get 3 charges of it. Whoo, boy, that is nice. That is exactly what the ship needed. So they say this change has been applied in order to refresh the ship's gameplay and add to the quality of life when playing on Vanguard. We've opted to reduce the risk of using the main guns by improving her healing capabilities. With these changes, Vanguard will be able to heal back a larger portion of her HP than before in a fraction of the time, allowing her commander wider flexibility in taking calculated risks when choosing whether to bring all guns to bear. So you see, that's exactly like if I had that consumable in this background battle right now, which I'm assuming is the Vanguard battle, that would have been so friggin' nice. Like, this is the perfect example of what a Vanguard has to deal with today, right? You get double up tier to tier 10 hard, and you're just outclassed so hard, because you have 15-inch guns, and yes, you have, like, a nice reload time on the guns, and the high maneuverability of the ship, but still, it's just such a struggle bus right now. This was much, much, much needed for the Vanguard, and I'm very glad that they are bringing it. Alright, up next, the Leningrad. I don't know why they didn't shove this up here with the Soviet ships. The Tier 7 Premium Soviet DD. Torpedo reload boosting consumable added with the following parameters. You get an 8-second reload time for the torpedoes. It cools down in 300 seconds, and you get two charges of that base. And then Kremlin! A Kremlin buff out of nowhere, too! Guess what, boys? Kremlin's getting her AA health back. So, if you weren't around when the Kremlin first came out, the Kremlin was pretty stupid back in the day, right? Really powerful. And for some reason, instead of nerfing, the HP, the guns, the shells, anything that most players were complaining about, they nerfed the AA health. Yeah. They made her AA basically super brittle for some reason. And, she has good AA, it's just that, one round of HE destroys most of the AA amounts on the ships. So now you have your normal AA health back. Basically has a Slava AA now, because Slava had the Kremlin AA, but it didn't catch the nerf. So, yeah, Kremlin now has AA that can survive and shoot down planes. Yay! Also another ship that's not doing overly amazing in today's World of Warships. Okay, the Uganda, the Tier 7 Commonwealth Cruiser. She got a buff to her main battery reload time from 6.6 to 6 seconds. And then the Tier 7 Premium Japanese battleship, the Hyuga, the ship that I love so much, is catching a nerf. Her Sigma's being reduced from 1.8 to 1.7. Wargaming, why? I like that ship so much. Then the Harakazi, the Tier 8 Premium ship, it says High School Fleet Harakazi 2. The HE shell penetration has been increased from 25 to 30 millimeters. And then, gentlemen, after begging for buffs to this ship for years, we are finally getting it. The Texas has received a buff. I don't know how I feel about it, though. So what they've done here is they've given Texas the DFAA consumable. It's a buff. It sure is a buff, and it is trying to, maintain her thing, which is AA, shooting down planes, but she still has a 3.5 kilometer AA range. Which means that, sure, if something gets in your AA, it shreds it. It still shreds it, even without the consumable. But I guess now this is meant to really shred them, because planes are not within that bubble for too long, even at, Tier 5 dealing with Tier 6 CVs. But sure, I guess if you pop DFAA now, with a 50% buff to the continuous AA damage and a 300% buff to the flak burst, sure, that will kill a lot more planes, but Wargaming, would it kill you to give the thing a reload buff? Like, that was a trade-off for having God AA, was a 3-second nerf to the reload time. But for some reason, they just refused to do that. So I'm glad it's a buff, but I would have preferred a reload buff, as I'm sure many of you would have too. But who knows? Maybe she'll catch that in the future. Alright, last two. The Dupleix, the Tier 6 Premium Fringe Cruiser, the main battery reload booster consumable duration has been increased from 15 to 25 seconds. And then lastly, the Tier 8 Premium Dutch Cruiser, the Vriheid, Elvish language, number of depth charge bombs increased from 6 to 8. Alright, so some very big, unexpected changes in this DevBlog. Some very welcome changes too. Again, I love seeing the American light cruisers getting those 360 turrets and the widening of the angles. Beautiful, beautiful seeing that old line get some love. Same with the Soviet DDs too. I'm probably going to go back and check those guys out now. It's been forever since I played any of the ships that weren't the Khabarovsk in this line, even the Delny, right? And the Libertad line, again, we all saw those coming, right? They were vastly overperforming by every metric in their tier just about. And as far as the other miscellaneous changes there at the end, love the Vanguard buff. That's going to breathe some new life into that ship. Texas, Wargaming, just, this is cool, right? But a reload buff would be so much better. So guys, let me know in the comments down below, which of these buffs and changes are you looking forward to? What have you like to see change different? What else would you like to see Wargaming do with these ships? Hope you guys have a wonderful Friday, wonderful rest of your weekend. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.